Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome. This is Samantha Stone, your host for Trust in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. And I am very excited today because I have the CMO of zoovu, Claudine Bianchi, with me today. And the reason I'm so excited is we're actually going to talk a lot about practical applications of artificial intelligence and interacting with customers and buyers. And she has some amazing examples of how this technology is being applied to zoovu customers. And I am really thrilled to be able to share those with you. Welcome, Claudine.
Thanks for having me, Samantha.
Prior to recording our conversation today, we were chatting and you were sharing some really excellent examples of how artificial intelligence actually is being used in ways to help us. And I was surprised by a couple of examples, but as soon as you said them, I was like, this light bulb went on. I'm like, yes, this is how it should work. So I want to talk a little bit about Whirlpool because I thought one particularly resonated with me. I recently renovated my kitchen and put new appliances in, and I actually found the process a little bit frustrating in picking out which appliances I should use. I went into one of the big box stores and the person there wasn't particularly helpful. And I think it would have been a lot easier had they used some of the techniques that you were talking about. So share that with us.
Yeah, so it's amazing when we shop online or get information, or even going into the store, when you look at the information cards that they have, it's all tech specs, right? So they talk in terms of cubic feet. They talk in terms of water flow and water pressure and all these other terms that frankly, you're not concerned with. You know, I have 2 kids and I need to wash clothes almost every day because they have school uniforms. You know, I have this amount of space I can put the washer machine. That's about the only technical thing I want to worry about is the size. But today we're confronted with all these weird things like how much water goes through it and stuff. That has no meaning to me. So what Whirlpool did, which I think is fascinating, is instead of just presenting all these technical specifications to their potential clients and customers, what they do is they ask a series of questions that are relevant to me. Do you have a family? Do you live in a home? How many washes do you do per week? You know, how many people are you washing for? Do you do mostly whites or colors?
These are all questions I can actually answer.
Exactly. They're not asking you what your cubic foot requirements are. They're asking you how you intend on using their washer or dryer. And it's funny, it's taking the in-store type of experience that you're used to having and then moving it into a digital experience, right? So all of a sudden, if you walk into a store and say you go to one of the local appliance stores here, and a customer service representative goes up to you, a sales associate, they're not going to ask you, so how many cubic feet are you looking for? They're going to ask you the same set of questions. So what digital assistants can provide in the digital world is having those type of interactions where it's human-like conversations, not drowned in technical specifications, right? So you can get what you want without having to know all those line-by-line items that just drag the sales process down and just confuse the customer.
Amen. I wish I had had that. I mean, the only tech spec I really had when I walked in was what color I wanted to be exposed through my kitchen. But, there's also this part of me, the marketer part of me, that's kind of drooling over this kind of data collection, because one of the things is, yes, I may not know what tech specs are, but even if I told you I need 16 cubic feet or I need this level of water flow, you as a brand don't actually know me. You don't actually know a lot to be able to follow up in marketing. But if you know that I wash every day and I have 4 kids and, depending on the nature of the questions we ask, how much space it's in, and I live in a private home, am I a renter? It could be like all these really relevant questions that let the machine say what to offer me, let the artificial intelligence say, this is the right system for you, but also to get to know me. And the next evolution, and I don't think everybody's doing it yet, I dream about is, what are they now going to do with that information as a brand relationship with me post-purchase?
Sure. So I don't know what other companies are doing, but certainly zoovu is collecting all this information about you anonymously. We're not violating any GDPR things, but we're starting to understand that, mothers of a certain age with a certain amount of kids are going to prefer this kind of machine. And we can start changing the questions so that when we see someone that fits your persona, we ask them the right questions. And not only asking them the right questions, what's the right order of those questions? Which questions are working, which ones aren't? And then actually having the system make recommendations for you, saying, well, if you ask her about the color of the machine, her propensity, at this stage in the questionnaire, by the time you get to the end, she's not going to buy. So move out the color to the end, because then you can help her visualize it, whatever the AI thinking is, or because I have this massive data that says this is the order that you should be actually addressing Samantha as she goes to buy, a washing machine or dryer.
The day that we can get to this. And here's the amazing part to me for those who are listening is the technology exists to do this today.
Absolutely.
Right. And we just got to retrain the way we think as business leaders and marketers and customer service. And a lot of times I think marketers don't even think about that part of the process as their job. But imagine if we can get our hands on that information and we can even put it into inputting design of product in the future, right? It is a lot of application.
Absolutely. A lot of, I think, what we go through is choice paralysis almost. We get too much. We have all this choice out there, but it's really hard to nail in what's the right thing for us and actually have confidence about making a purchase decision. And this goes for enterprise software. It goes for cars. It goes for, hair and beauty products, for goodness sakes. I mean, it's everywhere. We need confidence, but there's just so much choice. We're afraid to make a decision, so we don't. And no one ends up buying and sellers get frustrated.
Yeah. And, a lot of times it may be that the way we answer questions, it comes up with not a great fit. Maybe we don't have the right model that's going to meet their needs or their budget or whatever those criteria are. But instead of just accepting that and moving on to the next customer, we actually can take that information and act on it and do something with it. If we see enough people like that we're not serving, now we can go back and find a way maybe to serve that audience.
Yeah. Well, in today's world, big data, and there is a lot of data out there. It's chock full of information, but we just don't know how to extract it to make it meaningful. And AI, I think, is really helping us to get there so that we can make these applications that really do help customers, consumers, buyers make better decisions in their purchasing activities.
I want to talk a little bit about a not so great experience that you had recently, and I won't shame the pharmacy specifically by naming them, but you had a recent experience where you were trying to order a refill of prescription. Let's kind of talk our audience through what happened there, because it's a good opportunity for us to do better.
Sure. So it is a typical example. I travel a lot. I have a prescription that's going to run out while I'm going to be on the road. So I called this particular pharmacy. And I got their automated bot, and he said, I'm going to help guide you through this discussion. It's great. He took my, and it's all voice activated now, so I don't even have to key anything in. I thought, this is going well. So I give him. It was a let's
pause for a moment. Like this is like you've made this a person now. So whether it was intentional or not, you feel like you're interacting with somebody representing the company.
Absolutely. Right? So he, whatever his name is, asks me questions. I give him my prescription number. He verifies the prescription, my name, all this type of stuff. It's great. And we're on the phone for a while. I'm giving him all this information. And then he says, well, it's too soon to refill this prescription. And I was like, well, yeah, but I need to refill it. I'll be on the road by the time I need it. And I said that into the phone as if I'm talking to the guy. And he said, next question, would you like to refill another prescription? And I was like, well, no, I want to talk to someone about this prescription. And he again asks, is there another prescription I can help you with? And he asked me this once or twice, and then he hangs up.
He hung up on you.
I haven't felt this bad since like I was a 16-year-old. I mean, he hangs up on me, and I'm so frustrated at this point because now I know I'm going to have to go to the pharmacist and talk to the pharmacist in person, right? So that's not the way it should work.
Right.
The way it should work is he should either he should route me to a person that could help me, or just say, sorry, I'm not equipped to do this. Can I route you to the pharmacist at your local pharmacy store? But they didn't do that.
Yeah. And by the way, when they route you, or said they should alert that local store that you've had an issue. So even if it's just when you come in person, they know all this history. And, I thank you for sharing that example. I think we all kind of come up with lots of examples like that. And the reason I want to do that is we need to retrain ourselves to think about how we use technology to interact. There was doing that voice activated thing that you went through, that certification, that's actually difficult work and it's meaningful. And that brand invested in doing that. And their intentions were good. Their intentions were not to frustrate their customers. They wanted to have a conversation with you. But we fell down because they didn't anticipate when something doesn't work according to my script, what's going to happen. And I think it's our obligation and our opportunity as marketers to figure out and anticipate when something goes wrong, what do we do? And how do we make that smooth transition over?
Right. Because instead of a positive, I was going along very well. I would have had a very positive experience with this particular brand, but I fell flat with one little cue that they can make, one rule or something. They just fell short. So that's what I think. We were taking the technology so far, but not far enough.
Yeah. That's an opportunity. Let's talk about the work that you guys do with Amazon, because that's another great example of something that I actually think is working really well, right? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Amazon uses us in some of their product categories, and let's just use cameras for example. I go to Amazon and I want to find a camera for my daughter, right? So we're going on vacation. She's 15. She wants something that she can put in her little pocketbook there, and I type in cameras in Amazon, and I get 40,000 responses. 40,000 cameras out there.
Overwhelming.
Yeah. Now, they do break me out, and they give me filters, which is nice. If you go to the left-hand side, I can pick out filters, but it's all based on aperture and lens sizes and all these technical things. I don't know anything about that. I mean, all I want her to do is point at something and click. So Amazon's brilliant. And they've discovered on some of these more complex sales, what they need is these digital assistants. And a digital assistant it'll take all those technical specifications and actually map them to human language. So if you need something that's aperture rating, right? Instead of asking you what apertures you need, it'll ask you something simple like, are you going to take photos at night? Right? Do you want a big camera, a little camera, or, the size of the carriage? They say, is it something heavy or something like, all they'll ask you is like, will you be taking this traveling? Right? Do you want something small enough to fit into your purse or your briefcase or your pocket? Right? All these types of human questions that I can nail down those 40,000 choices I have down to maybe a handful that I can then go and explore on my own, and then read about the reviews, because reviews are very important here, because that's a human connection too that we bring to that buying decision. So I think it's brilliant what Amazon is doing, because it's actually helping you. It's providing that in-store experience online.
I think that's so critical. And that is the magic here isn't that they've said, hey, we're going to try and manually think of all the questions to ask, and we're going to try and stay on top, because they have too many product categories. They couldn't possibly do that.
No.
And even if you have a smaller set of product categories, there's so much richness to be learned from the experience of those digital assistant interactions, and gives you the opportunity to scale human interactions in ways that we just can't do. We just can't hire enough people to have every person interact with us. Right. And shoppers don't always want to talk to a real person. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's 3:00 in the morning and I have insomnia, and I just want to go on and buy a camera for the trip that's coming, because that's why I can't sleep, because I'm stressed out because I don't have anything ready to pack. Right.
Exactly. So it's 24/7, right? That you can get this information that you're not going to be able to go into a store and ask for. And in fact, I think people are less and less inclined to go to the store, right? Because they're going to run into a sales associate that can't really help them. Plus it takes time to get there, to have that, unless there's a great experience happening at that brick and mortar. I'm better off finding stuff online. I mean, I have 2 teenage daughters. Remember when we were teenagers?
Yes.
Wall rats.
Yes, I remember.
So much time shopping and having face-to-face interactions. That just doesn't happen anymore. These kids today, the Gen Zers, they do everything. They have conversations and it's all through text. Right. It has nothing to do with picking up the phone and actually calling someone and talking to them. They want to have those conversations, but they want it in a digital experience.
100%. And, one of the things we were talking about is even translating. Digital assistants can be hugely valuable, even in store experiences, right? I go into an electronics superstore, and this actually really happened. So I went to buy my son a computer. He's going to college. I'm fairly tech savvy, I consider myself. But there's like 50 choices. They all start to look the same. I don't want to make the decision purely based on what's the least expensive or most expensive. I want to have some thoughtfulness to how I do that. And so I ask an associate to help me, and they are, they know less than I do sometimes, right? So, and, I'm not blaming that associate. They're busy. It may turn out maybe they normally work in, home appliances like refrigerators, and today they were short-staffed in computers, so they're over there. These types of technologies can help in those environments as well, right?
Absolutely. So a great example of this is Microsoft. So Microsoft, with a number of their retailers, is putting in-store kiosks. And the in-store kiosks are taking all those things that you would typically look for in a computer. Are you going to travel with it? Do you want something small? Do you want something large? Or do you play games with it? Is this a computer mostly for home or work? So it's taking all the anxiety over how many megahertz I need or how much CPU power I need. And then really narrowing it down to just those choices that make the most sense for you and what you really, really need. Now, why is this important in stores? Well, think about the holiday season. We boost up all these employees, to get us through the Christmas buying season. Not all of them are trained. Yeah. Not all of them are going to know. So this in-store kiosk is not only helping the consumers, it's augmenting our sales staff to also be able to provide the information to those consumers as they need it.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I don't think we can underestimate the value of that in any way. We have to get better at using the technology that's available to us today. Yeah. And so I think those examples that you provided for Amazon and Microsoft or Whirlpool are really good reminders for us. I also want to remind us, though, that you don't have to be part of a huge brand and have millions of customers to benefit. That every day we have the opportunity to interact in different, new, and better ways digitally with our customers. And there's a tremendous opportunity to carry that through as a differentiating experience for us. And we have to do that. And these complex buying processes are a perfect place to start, right? We don't sometimes think about a washing machine being a complex purchase, but it actually is. It is. Right? There's a lot that goes into something like that.
Yeah, nothing is as easy as it seems.
Right? Never. And, we're a household that does we do 2 to 3 loads of laundry every day.
Yeah.
And, mostly because my husband and children come home very stinky from their jobs and their day tasks and activities. And we need to do that. So our burden is different than our neighbor, perhaps, who, is a couple who lives alone and does a lot of dry cleaning, right? So there's all these factors that go into what we need. And we have these tremendous opportunities. So thank you so much for joining me, Claudine. These have been incredible examples. If folks want to learn more about zoovu, what's the best way for them to check that out?
Yeah, they can see a lot of the live examples and really get a good sense of what we offer to marketers at www.zoovu, which is zoovu.com.
Thank you so much. I really encourage you to check it out. The work that they're doing there is really inspiring. What I particularly like about it is really good practical applications of this advanced technology. We shouldn't be afraid of it. You don't have to be a technology expert to be able to use it. These are examples that most of us should be able to think through.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for listening. And I encourage you to go out there and think about all the ways that you can apply this fantastic technology to your own interactions with customers.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.